Looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday. Do we have a packed schedule for you from the brilliant mind of the sage philosopher, Mike Tyson? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, I had a nice plan before just minutes ago, and Max and Todd, we were going to talk about the central bank digital currencies being a bullet train to digital concentration camps. That's kind of was going to be the overarching topic. And then a couple of other things started to happen this week. Ethereum dropped 20%. As the SEC declares control over the network. So I'm like, oh man, we can't not talk about that. And then the House stablecoin bill, there's some additional color to that would basically put a 2-year ban on Terra Luna-like coins. So the question was, in my mind, does that have any impact on EUSD? I know that were Max here, he'd be able to have an answer for that. So that one we're going to table until Friday, Epic Cash Live, noon Eastern time. Please come join us. Don't ever miss that. Don't ever miss this show. Wednesday, noon Eastern. Usually it's Todd and Max. Todd Lewis, our chief engineer, chief lead tech, chief everything, really, chief father officer, most of all, when he's getting shot in the head with Nerf bullets. But anyway, before I jump into the topic that I wanted to discuss, Todd had something that he shared with me, and I'm like, hey, it's 12:03. Let's just go ahead and share that with everybody. So Todd, I'll give you the floor if you want to let us know about C++. And who is Mark Russinovich?
Mark Russinovich is the CTO of Azure, which is Microsoft's compute cloud. So okay. It's the second biggest compute cloud after Amazon's AWS.
Okay.
And he's also a longtime Microsoft executive. And this morning he said in this tweet on the screen, can you see my screen?
We sure can. Thank you.
Okay. Speaking of languages, it's time to halt starting any new projects in C or C++ and use Rust for those scenarios where a non-garbage collected language is required. For the sake of security and reliability, the industry should declare those languages as deprecated.
What does that, could you leave that up there for just a little?
Oh, sure.
So people kind of absorb it and read it while we talk about it?
Yeah, so C is a 50-year-old programming language, and it's probably the most important systems programming language. So Linux is written in C. Apple's operating system is written in C. Mm-hmm. C++ is an object-oriented dialect from the 1980s. Microsoft Windows is written in C++. Oracle's database is written in C. The Chrome web browser is written in C++. These are languages for building low-level system components where you need to be doing really aggressive kinds of computing, where you're controlling memory and controlling where the memory goes. And that's in contrast to languages like Java, where the programmer has a much easier time and you can develop faster, but you don't have as much control over the performance and the particular way that the computer is operating.
Okay.
All right. So for those tasks, he's officially declared that Rust is the language of the future, and that in his opinion, C and C++ are deprecated and should be officially considered obsolete. And this is interesting for Epic because Epic is implemented in Rust. Epic is implemented in the safe language of the future. And this is exactly why we did it, it's a safe language for building high-performance compute components. And the industry continues to come around to our point of view that Rust is the preferred implementation language for projects like Epic Cache.
Can you give me a sense? There are 20,000 assets out there, Todd Lewis. What percentage of those are built in Rust or coded in Rust?
It's a minority. Most of them are still built in C++ just because that's what people know.
Okay.
So Ethereum and Bitcoin, both the original implementations are in C. For these purposes, there's not much difference between C and C++.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to memory safety and whatnot. There are big differences in programming style, but they're not important for this discussion. And C and C++ remain the default choice for many people, but I think that's just because the industry is still being permeated with knowledge about how important Rust is and what a big difference it makes. And for us,
break it down for those of us who were uninitiated in coding or engineering. I mean, can you dumb it down so that we'll understand really what is the power of Rust? What does it do? You've done an excellent job educating us on Mimblewimble in an easy to understand way. Can you do the same with Rust? No pressure.
No problem. So the main problem that C and C++ have is that C and C++ let you directly manage the memory of the computer. Okay, so I'm going to get 4 kilobytes from the operating system, and I'm going to use it to store this data, be it blockchain data or a web page or whatever. But the programmer has to do that completely on his own in C and C++. The language does not help him do that in a safe way. And it's very easy. And it's very easy to do that in an unsafe way, which leads to security vulnerabilities. It leads to crashes. And the Linux kernel, for example, is starting to move in a significant way towards Rust. Google came out and said that 70-something% of the security vulnerabilities they found over the past 15 years are related to memory safety in C and C++. It is the major source of security vulnerabilities in our industry. And what Rust does is Rust lets you express as a programmer in your program, this memory goes here, this memory belongs to this thing, this code can't touch this memory stops being used here, and so I need to return it to the operating system. And it eliminates this entire category of bugs in your code.
Wow.
So that the components you're building are much, much safer.
So this really goes back to kind of your personal fundamental, not theory, but just game plan, I guess, to where less is more, right? I mean, whether it's
simple and reliable is really what you want in these systems. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why the code base we chose was Rust. Right.
Now, what does Rust allow us to do in the future that we currently can't, but because you coded it in Rust versus C or C++, you can? Is that kind of an out there question?
No, you can do basically everything in Rust that you can do in C and vice versa.
Okay.
But Rust is dramatically safer. And as a result, you can move a lot faster because you don't have to constantly be looking over your shoulder to see if you forgot something, to see if you're introducing one of these vulnerabilities, because the language is keeping you safe.
You mean, so with C and C++, because the projects are written in those create attack vectors. Is that fair to say?
Statistically, they do. Yeah. It's really easy to make those mistakes. And I've been a C programmer for 25 years. So,
right.
It's very easy to do. And because of that, you're constantly haunted by the fear that you're making one of those mistakes. And so you're constantly double checking and triple checking your code to make sure you're not making one of those mistakes, because the language does not help you. You're completely on your own. And as a result, development is much slower. This is an interesting engineering observation, is speed and safety are very closely related. The safer your approach is, the faster you can go.
What do you think? This is probably not even a question that can be answered, but maybe you can. What do you think the central banks are using to code their CBDCs?
I know exactly what they're using. They are using whichever language the contractor who bribed the most congressmen wants to use.
And the winner usually would be?
The C or C++, or something stupid.
Okay. Well, that thank you for updating us on that. You know, everyone watching this, I do just want to give you a little sneak peek here and share my screen right here, because what we were going to talk about with Max, which we're going to hit up on Friday. Okay, so I'm giving you a little preview. House stable coin bill would put 2-year ban on Terra-like coins. So what is this signaling to all of us if you just engage a little bit of critical thought? The government is wanting to put their thumbprint all over cryptocurrency. Okay, so this is a bill that's going to be introduced. Now, what is that? How does that impact the development of EUSD? I don't know that. I talked to Todd about that before, and he said that's not his lane currently. And so we'll patiently wait for Max on Friday. Gives you a reason to come back. But then also, Todd, maybe we can talk about this. Ethereum price drops 20% as the SEC declares control over the network. Ethereum has plummeted by 20% despite last week's successful transition to proof of stake, as the shadow of the U.S. regulator body falls over its rising ambitions. The world's second largest blockchain was declared as coming under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government Security Exchange Commission, the SEC, due to the majority of the validator nodes that secure the network being set up being within the U.S. And that would be, I believe, 48% of the nodes is what I read in here. All Ethereum transactions globally, the SEC says, should be considered American origin because 45.8% of all Ethereum nodes operated within the United States based on Etherscan. The second greatest density of nodes is in Germany, with only 19% by comparison. So this is crazy, Todd, saying that the number of nodes enables the SEC to characterize doing business on the Ethereum blockchain as doing business on a U.S. securities exchange. From a regulatory perspective, what do you think of that? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised for a number of reasons. Number one, the U.S. government has had an expansive view of its jurisdiction for decades, where they'll just assert jurisdiction over anything they don't like anywhere in the world. Be it imposing sanctions around the world and expecting banks and companies around the world, whether they do business in the United States or not, to follow U.S. sanctions and financial regulations. Prosecuting Julian Assange for espionage, for receiving classified materials from whistleblowers, doing so overseas. He didn't copy anything off of a U.S. network. He never stepped foot in the United States. He has no nexus with the United States, but they assert jurisdiction over him anyway. That they're going to assert whatever jurisdiction they want to assert.
So are they? Is the nuclear fallout of this that Ethereum is going to be considered a security? Because I'm reading here in the article something that was cut off, except Bitcoin could be considered a security. And every project that is deployed on top of the Ethereum network could be claimed to be a security and coming within the jurisdiction of the SEC. Being classified as a security will make Ethereum and any application deployed on it need to go through the lengthy process of registration with the SEC. Also, if it is deemed a security, then that would mean Ethereum has been trading as an unregistered security for many years. And this could lead to fines for the Ethereum Foundation, the multitude of exchanges that have been trading Ether, and most Ethereum-based cryptocurrency tokens. Jeepers creepers. That is an absolute mic drop. if that comes to pass. But also, it strikes me, Todd, that it becomes quite an infomercial for Epic Cash. What say you on that?
I don't know why anyone would be surprised. They're going to assert however much control they feel the need to assert in order to maintain control of the financial system and stop crypto from fulfilling its mission to give people choices in payments and monetary function.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the idea that just because you might be on the right side of the law today means that, if you're doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide, is the kind of thing people say when they don't have experience with oppressive governments.
Right.
And I'm not saying the U.S. government is an oppressive government today. I'm saying you'd have to have absolute confidence that it's not going to be an oppressive government anytime in the near future in order to, or other governments for that matter, asserting extraterritorial jurisdiction over people doing business on blockchain, to understand the importance of privacy, to understand the importance of not doing your business out in the public, to understand the importance of controlling the flow of information around what you do and where you do it, as a matter of prudence. Because who is it that you think is going to take care of you and protect you from a government that's seeking to maintain control? It's certainly not the Security and Exchange Commission. Quite the opposite. And people look to these organizations as sheepdog protecting the sheep, when what they're doing is hurting the sheep for the later slaughter.
Right. Speaking of hurting sheep, let me share a different page here. All right, let's talk about this. Central bank digital currencies are the bullet train.
Uncle, you're in my video here. Your video is your screen share is truncated. You might want to stop it and restart it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, thank you very much. So think about this. This is this quote here. If you can move every human being into a digital concentration camp, empty their bank account anytime you want, and tell them what they can or cannot spend money on, you've got complete control. So this, everyone, is worth us going through and actually reading. It's not that long, but we arrive ultimately at imagine these scenarios. And that's where I really want you to pay attention, please. So the White House published a comprehensive framework on Friday attacking decentralized cryptocurrencies while promoting U.S. government-controlled programmable CBDCs. Per its official press release. I'll include this in my show notes, and then you can follow the rabbit trail to the press release. Agencies that were chosen to lead the ongoing working group for the research and possible development of a CBDC include the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and it is not a reserve, the National Economic Council, the National Security Council, the Official Science and Technology Policy, and the Treasury Department. Todd Lewis, what could possibly go wrong? CBDCs are digital currency issued directly from a nation-state's central bank and serve as legal tender. Critically, CBDCs are controlled by governments and therefore represents the polar opposite of the ideas decentralization, open source software, permissionless peer-to-peer transactions, everything Epic Cash is, that made Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies such a revolutionary technology. Even though we have gone through the in the quest for superior money, what Bitcoin is not, it's certainly not peer-to-peer transactions, permissionless. We could go on. As you can guess, CBDCs will be tied to user identities and digital IDs, which will allow for total surveillance by the state and eliminate any chance of financial privacy. According to the Atlantic Council's Central Bank Digital Currency Tracker, 112 countries, representing over 95% of global GDP, are exploring a CBDC. 11 countries have already launched a digital currency, including Nigeria and numerous Caribbean nations. 14 countries are testing pilot programs, including South Korea, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and China, which is set to expand its use of the digital yuan in 2023. Now, Anthony Pompliano, an American entrepreneur, investor, Bitcoin maxi, evangelist, he wrote last March that the central bank digital currencies will be one of the greatest violations of human rights in history. Central bank digital currencies remove the privacy and decentralization nature of physical cash. Pompliano explained. Notice he didn't say Bitcoin there, or I just noticed that. It creates an environment where central banks have complete control over every aspect of a citizen's financial life. If this isn't starting to concern you people listening to this, you're not paying attention. We keep hammering this and talking about the importance of acquiring Epic Cash now because of this. All right, these central bankers will be able to see what is in your bank account, who you transact with, what you purchase, and anything else that you're curious about. That they're curious about regarding your financial life. That full transparency with the state removes all elements of privacy while also giving the institutions the ability to censor any and all transactions, regardless of whether they have a legitimate reason or not. Pompliano's comments mirror those made by the president of the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis, who actually rocks. I couldn't believe this guy. Speaking to a panel hosted at Columbia University, he said that he had no idea what problems centralized digital currencies solved for American citizens. I have a video of this. I'm not going to find it, but maybe I will by Friday. What is it that a CBDC can do that Venmo can't do? He said, well, I can see why China would do it. If they want to monitor every one of your transactions, impose negative interest rates, or directly tax customer accounts, he said, you can do that with a central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. He continued, let's see, Robert blah, blah, rich dad, poor dad. He had scathing criticism over the idea of introducing CBDCs. We're almost done here, folks. He referred to the Executive Order 14067, signed by the Biden White House in early March, that established the government's position on creating a CBDC as the most treasonous act in U.S. history in a tweet that he posted July 17th. He said it right here. Jim Rickards made his most important announcement today. It's about the most treasonous act in U.S. history, Biden's Executive Order 14067. It's communism in its purest form. The creation of CBDC, stay awake, tune in, blah, blah. All right, now here's what I wanted to get to, because this is where those of you who just hand wave this and are like, oh, look, it's for our convenience. And sure, they're going to ask us for our $50 bills and $100 bills, but don't worry, we'll convert those into, digital currency for you at your convenience. Makes it easy peasy. You don't have to mess with that dirty, filthy cash anymore. Well, imagine these scenarios, please, and then we'll chat about this, Todd. You spoke up against masking children at your child's school board meeting. Purchase denied. You exceeded your vehicle's weekly miles and surpassed your carbon limit. Purchase denied. You posted private message on Facebook questioning the integrity of the last election. Purchase denied. You did not take your latest Pfizer mRNA gene therapy shot. Purchase denied. You defied your lockdown protocol and traveled outside your quarantine zone. purchase design. All of these would be possible because why? CBDCs are what, Todd Lewis? They are programmable, are they not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's really fair to compare it to communism because the Soviet Union had cash and there was a robust black market which escaped the government's control.
We have Epic Cash.
We
Just
do.
saying. Just saying.
So, countries that are rocketing ahead on government-controlled digital currencies include China, Saudi Arabia. It's no mystery why they are interested in government-controlled digital currency.
No mystery.
And when Justin Trudeau says that people who want to make their own decisions about whether their children get vaccinated are extremists who need to be dealt with, we already know what that means in Canada, at least, which is the government locks up your bank accounts and does so without even any judicial finding of guilt, of crime, just administratively, right? And negative interest rates, I think, are a very real threat. But we've been through this many times before. And this is right in the time of the credit cycle when governments start to assert these greater levels of control, which is debt levels in the general economy, both corporate and government, are extremely high. Mm-hmm. So we know what's going to happen because it's happened many times before. It happened in the 1970s. It happened in the 1930s in the United States. It happened in Mexico and Israel in the 1980s. There's going to be a lot of inflation. There's going to be capital controls, and they're going to limit productive people's ability to preserve their purchasing power because they're the ones who are on the receiving end. I saw a really funny complaint years ago. Someone wrote in to an advice column and said, the government is doing thing ABC, and I don't understand why I'm the one who has to pay for it. I play by the rules. I work hard. I save for the future. And the guy in the advice column wrote back and said, people who work hard and save for the future are the ones who have to pay for it. Who else do you think is going to pay for
it? Touche.
Like how do you make broke deadbeats pay for anything?
Right. Wow.
And so yeah, I mean we've seen it many times before. When governments run up very high debt levels, they inflate the currency and they institute capital controls. And government-controlled digital currencies are perfect for both. They can erect the barriers ever higher to getting wealth out of the system, and it's off to the races. So the only thing that confuses me is why people are confused by it.
Mm. Well, you just said the key words: government-controlled digital currencies. So let's segue into Epic Cash.
Can I ask just one more related question about this? Right?
Yeah, sure.
At the beginning of the Ukraine war,
mm-hmm.
all of the people on the Russian subway system who are using Google Pay and Apple Pay to swipe in to the trains for their morning commute, mm-hmm. when they woke up one morning and Google Pay and Apple Pay had been turned off overnight in the entirety of Russia by the flip of a switch in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
My question is, why would anyone be surprised by this?
Yeah, good point. Well, at least MasterCard and Visa didn't shut off in Russia.
True, but that's just a choice. It's not because they couldn't have.
No, they did.
Oh,
my wife's Russian, so we were working hard on getting her mom some money. So it was very, very difficult.
And of all the assets that you would have liked to have when your country is cut off from the international banking system, tell me some that are better than cryptocurrencies.
Right. Indeed. I mean, it's like we never ended up going there because we had some friends that were able to get some money to Bratislava. over in Russia already, but I was literally having conversations with Max about some of our Russian miners and if I might be able to get them Epic Cash to convert to rubles. And obviously I'm putting faith and trust in them, but in doing that, to be able to get, Yana's mom some money to be able to pay for her bills. I mean, it was really, really dicey, right? And then I wake up this morning and my wife, she hasn't seen her mom in 3 years because Russians can't get a visa to America and we can't, vice versa. So they decided to meet in Turkey, which is where they are right now. And she wakes up this morning and I guess Putin has issued a draft.
Military draft.
Yeah. And get this, from ages 18 to 60. Is that not mind-boggling? Anyway, but let's talk about Epic Cash and about how it becomes resistance in these times of turmoil. Why people should think of Epic Cash as an alternative, as a parallel system that, granted, we may be undiscovered now, but it may get to the point, may it not, Todd Lewis, to where we don't have any option, even people who may not be crypto savvy. If people can shut off your money, do bail-ins, stop transactions, man, how can you put your head in the sand for too long and continue to operate?
Well, and this is what the original mission of cryptocurrency is all about. It's to give people digital assets, which they have control. And that's really what it's all about. Who is in control of your money? Is it Wells Fargo? Is it Citibank? Is it Venmo? Is it the Federal Reserve? Or is it you?
Right.
And the mathematics of Epic Cash leave control with you.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Mathematics is a stubborn thing.
I'm just going to savor on that. The mathematics of Epic Cash leaves you in control. I never liked math much until now.
It has its uses.
You enlightened me.
It has its uses, and this is one of them. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It just seems like it is becoming not the wild, wild west. It's like these, and it's not even sheriffs coming in town to tame the wild, wild west. It just seems like there's just some very nefarious regulation. And, who was it? That comedian that said, it's a big damn club and you're not in it. Tip of the tongue, George Carlin. It's a big damn club and you're not in it. We're not in that club. But people, you know what? I unapologetically cover Epic Cash. But people, there is an Epic Cash club and you absolutely can be in it. And my goodness gracious, by every measure, I don't know what it's going to take to get everyone's attention out there. And I'm talking about those of you who are crypto savvy. I mean, Ethereum just dumped 20% because the SEC's taken control. You have this Microsoft dude talking about C and C++ becoming defunct programming language, but Rust, which is what we're based in, is the future. We're private by default. You can get, let's see, 40,000 Epic versus 1 BTC right now. I don't know. I haven't looked at BTC for a while, maybe under 19 grand or 20 grand. I don't know. I don't care. But at some point, and we're Howey compatible. So, there it is, plain as day. The U.S. government believes that everything that is not designed according to the original Satoshi design is a security. all other crypto assets risk profiles must be reevaluated. Those are words I copied and pasted from Telegram chat, t.me/Freeman U or /Epic Cash. Those are the words written by Max Freeman, who was just wargaming what this means. And so if you're holding all of these other securities and they're ultimately are these cryptos and they're going to be declared securities, you just have to follow the money. And where's the SEC going to go first? They're going to go after the founders or the foundations of these cryptocurrencies, and they're going to go after the exchanges. Why? Because the exchanges can do what they did to XMR, and they can delist. So how many of these projects are you holding that could be delisted just because the SEC says so? Until, I would imagine, these projects pony up and pay up, and bend the knee to the SEC. What else could the SEC do to projects, Todd? Do you have any idea in your rich imagination?
I do. The Ohio class ballistic missile submarine holds over 100 nuclear warheads on submarine launched ballistic missiles. The B-2 bomber is invisible to almost every radar in the world. The ICBMs are still up there in North Dakota, targetable anywhere in the world. The 11 carrier groups are roaming the world's oceans, able to project power deep into any of the world's continents by air. I think the SEC can do anything they want.
Valid point. Can they stop Epic Cash?
Well, yeah. When I say anything,
had to ask.
I mean, they can take guns and point them at people, and they can demand things. And but when they come and ask you to reveal your Epic Cash wallet, it really is your choice whether you recount your passphrase to them or not.
Right, because that's it. That's
it. And without they might have nuclear weapons, but they don't have mind reading devices. And if you've memorized your passphrase, then you can go anywhere in the world, sit down at a fresh computer, and rebuild your wallet from the cryptographic seed.
Do you know I did memorize my 24-word passphrase? I did that. Now, I did that like a month ago. And if you ask me right now to recount it, I'd say, oops.
You need to practice. Yeah.
You need to practice.
You need to practice.
But
I haven't memorized mine, so my Epic could disappear at any time, and these are just risks that happen. Honest, Your Honor.
Boat accidents happen, Your Honor. All right. So anything else you want to cover? I know that I have a hard stop. I have a really important meeting at 1 o'clock that I have to hop onto. But so did we cover everything? I think
we covered everything. And if we are ending early, I'm going to go look at some quantum resistant crypto functions and see if we can get them advanced a little bit in Epic Cash.
Yeah, baby. You go. Don't ever let me hold you back from quantum, whatever you just said. All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming. 15 people watching, 19 likes. It's good. And again, sorry that Max wasn't able to be here, but it's usually all for our own good future. And we'll see everybody on Friday. So thank you, Todd. Really